What is the single most important piece of information that every Christian must understand in Biology 101? Hey there, this is Dr. Paris, and this week our students are wrestling with the question of the origin of life, looking at the evidence for intelligent design and evolution. Before our students can look at the evidence, they have to understand the distinction between empirical science and forensic science. Explaining how something happens doesn't explain how something happened. How something occurs today doesn't define how it happened in the past. Let me give you an example of this. We're looking at two pictures, the picture of the Grand Canyon and a picture of Mount Rushmore. Now we talk about the Grand Canyon. This wasn't designed by a group of people or an individual. We know that. We talk about Mount Rushmore. We know that it's designed. We see patterns. We see consistency. But the real reason we know that Mount Rushmore was designed is there were people there that observed the event occurring. Now, what about this picture? Is it random or is it designed? Well, some may say it's designed. We see consistencies, we see patterns, but we really can't say with authority whether it was random or if it was designed unless we were there to observe it. Our students have to understand this when talking about Biology 101. Confusing empirical and forensic science. Let me give some definitions to this. We talk about empirical science. We talk about studying the present and regularities, observe and repeat. This is what we see in the chemistry lab. Talk about forensic science. We're talking about the past and singularities, one-time events. This is kind of more like a crime scene. We talk about the origin of life and the origin of the universe. Do we use empirical or forensic science? Now, let's think about those definitions we just gave them. Forensic science is talking about a singular event in the past. Only forensic science can tell us what happened in the past. But we get in trouble when we take empirical science and we take forensic science and we confuse the two. And our students need to understand this more than the evidence for evolution, more than the evidence for intelligent design. They need to understand the distinction between empirical and forensic science. Let me give you an example of the way that I see this misused the most. Remember back to the Miller-Urey experiment, where the idea was if we simulate early Earth conditions, mix in some gases and inject a flash of energy, then life will form. Now, the problem with this is that we're using empirical science. This is something that they were testing, and yet they were trying to say this is how it happened in the past. Now there were several things wrong with this experiment, but even on the outset looking at this, they're confusing empirical and forensic science. This is a theory of how it could have happened, but we don't know for sure because we weren't there to observe. Explaining how something happens doesn't explain how something happened. Let me give you an illustration of this. If Seth has a water balloon and he throws it at Jay, then Jay will become soaked. That is how Jay got soaked. Well, that's a theory of how it could have happened, but we don't know for sure because we weren't there to observe. There's a lot of ways that Jay could have become soaked. He could have been caught in a rainstorm, could have fell into a puddle, could have fell into a pool. Knowing how something happens doesn't explain how something happened. And if our students understand this, they will do much better in Biology 101. I hope this helps. Keep it in mind the next time you sit in a biology class. Have a good day.